Well, hey there guys, I'm Axel the Beast, and this is the Curiosity Shop, the zelda-dungeon.net video mailbag where I answer your Zelda questions. Our first question comes from the Bluest Chew. What experience do you think cemented your Zelda nerdiness? Believe it or not, I actually wasn't a huge fan of the Zelda series until somewhat recently. I mean, I was always kind of a fan ever since I played Ocarina of Time. I've loved the series, but I haven't, like, become a huge nerd and huge geek of the series and, like, started memorizing all the lore and, you know, being capable of doing this mailbag until fairly recently, maybe about 2 years ago, a little over that maybe, which was when I first joined the Zelda Engine forums, and that was when I started actually, like, coming up with fan stories and fan game ideas and, you know, kind of like creating with the Zelda universe. And I think that's when I really got into all the lore and the whole, well, Zelda universe, and I think that's when I really got into the series, and it's now become my favorite series since I've, you know, thought about it like that. And yeah, be sure to tell me what really got you into being huge fans of the Zelda series too. Majura's Wrath asks, I was wondering what your favorite temple is in Ocarina of Time. I don't know if you mean, like, temple as in just the temples, the Adult Link dungeons, or if you mean temple as in a term for dungeon, at which point that's actually a pet peeve of mine, referring to dungeons as temples, but that's not too important. Let's not get into that. My favorite, regardless of which you're asking, my answer is actually the same. My favorite dungeon in Ocarina of Time is the Forest Temple, and my favorite temple in Ocarina of Time is also the Forest Temple. I think the Forest Temple had great atmosphere and immersion. I mean, it's my favorite dungeon in the series, even. I think it got the setting in the game perfect. I mean, it felt perfect for the first Adult Link dungeon. It was this accelerated sense of urgency and danger and mysteriousness, and I think it was this creepy, immersive dungeon. It just felt like you were, I don't know, I always describe it as a very surreal place, like you're descending into like a madhouse of sorts. And I think it captures this really well and ends up as a very unique, very creative dungeon. And what I love about it is it doesn't bank on one specific element or theme. It wasn't just a forest dungeon. It was forest. It was surreal. It was a mansion. It had ghosts. I mean, it had so many themes that worked so well together. It was a very creative design. And I think that's something that Zelda dungeons need to keep in mind. Just saying, oh, well, this is a fire dungeon, this is a water dungeon, this is a forest dungeon. One theme, one element doesn't make a great concept. I think it's the combination of unique concepts, well, a combination of various concepts to make one great unique concept. And the Forest Temple is the only dungeon, in my opinion, that's really accomplished that. Ganon Slayer asks, I didn't find Navi as annoying as everyone says she is. Am I crazy? Absolutely not, because I also do not find her as annoying as, well, everyone says she is, and I don't think that everyone really thinks she's that annoying, because I actually hear a fair amount of debate on this. It's definitely a stereotypical joke, but I don't think it's necessarily completely true. I think that, I think Navi was actually like a great character, and she was a great help system. I especially loved how she constantly gave you information on the normal enemies. In most modern Zelda games, you can't get information on the enemies themselves, unless you look online or something, particularly with, like, Twilight Princess. And I thought that was a great aspect. The only thing that really annoyed me is she constantly has to remind you about the next place you're supposed to go, which I find annoying in a game that's supposed to emphasize side quests and free roaming, and it was just annoying to get reminded on it constantly in general. That's my only major irritation with Navi. Nintendo Fan 2014 asks, do you agree with Benzaie's thoughts on Twilight Princess? I'm not going to get into too much detail in this, because if I was, it would have to be like its own whole video response video, and that's obviously too much to get into on the mailbag, and I may make that video if you request enough. Be sure to tell me in the comments or whatever, but, so I'll go over this briefly. He hated on Twilight Princess a lot, in my opinion. He definitely seems to have some serious issues with the game, and, anyone who's watched my videos enough will know that I also have some major problems with the game. But, one thing that said, there's a lot of mixed feelings for me about his video. I mean, it was a great, interesting video. I especially loved how he had this tone of respect for the series in general, and I think that even bled into his thoughts on Twilight Princess. But that said, there's a lot of things he said that I feel I don't agree with, and there's things he says that I do agree with. For example, the fact he seems like he thinks that the game borrowed too much from Ocarina of Time, and I disagree with him on, like, that the art style was borrowed from Ocarina of Time. I think that's actually one of Twilight Princess's main problems, is that it didn't mimic Ocarina of Time's look, but, I think that it did try to, like, grab at Ocarina of Time instead of trying to have its own identity, and that's one of its main problems. But, you know, his whole video, he kind of has this, he kind of complains about all these little things about the game a lot, and that's kind of my problem with the game, too. It's a bunch of little things. That said, he seems to really hate the game, and I actually genuinely like the game. Hell, I'm playing it right now. Right now. Austin Fox 33 asks, why did Nintendo choose to port Link's Awakening to the eShop? Do you think we'll see any other Zelda titles released on it, like the Oracle games, maybe? Well, I really think, and I'm pretty sure they pretty much said this, that they're really doing the same thing they did with the Virtual Console and the Wii. They're putting old games that are handhelds onto this handheld downloadable shop thing. The only reason Link's Awakening would have come first, you know, would have been the only one that they've done it with so far, is because it's the first handheld Zelda game, so naturally it'll come first. I'm pretty sure the other handheld Zelda games are going to follow. Water2HP asks, since Skyward Sword is set to have almost all orchestrated music, do you think that the old MIDI music in Zelda is a thing of the past? In other words, do you think Zelda will always have orchestrated music from now on? I do think that they're going to probably going to start moving over to having orchestral music, but I don't think that non-orchestrated music is gone. In fact, they've almost implied that they are still going to have non-orchestrated music in Skyward Sword. Some of it, anyway. It's not going to be 100% orchestrated. And I think that certain handheld games, or games that work on like more primitive hardware, or trying to have a smaller, like, I don't know, file size or whatever, probably won't have orchestrated music, but I think it's going to start moving into a standard. Although there are songs that don't necessarily work as well in orchestrated, I think. Anyway, in my opinion. Maybe it's technically crap, but yeah. Link9991 asks, how do you think Skyward Sword will lead up to the Ocarina of Time events? And do you believe that the Skyward Sword Zelda could be the mother of the Link from Ocarina of Time that the Deku Tree Sprout was talking about? I think it'll lead up to the events by, like, establishing major series lore that were kind of established first in Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time created a fair amount of the elements that we see in the series in general, or at least it created the modern version of them, because some of them still come from A Link to the Past. But, that said, I think that, Ocarina of Time was the origin story for the series, and this is the origin story for the series now, the new one. So it's gonna follow up events that, you know, that show the establishment of everything that was going on in Ocarina of Time, and I think we're going to see a lot of foundation of things like the Master Sword, the Triforce, or the current Hylian religion, the royal family, things like that. As for the thing about Zelda being Link's mother from the Ocarina of Time Link's mother, definitely not. There's no way with the foundation of these things, some of which are pretty much proven that they are going to happen in Skyward Sword, that it can be that shortly before Ocarina of Time. These is going to be like hundreds of years before Ocarina of Time. There's no way that's possible. Steven Stills asks, please tell me I'm not crazy and that you saw this too. In the brief footage we've seen of the Siren World, did you notice that there are Triforces in it? There aren't in the rest of the game, or at least parts we've seen anyway, so what do you think this means? That is actually a very interesting observation, and me and another staff member were talking about this a while back. And it's very interesting because the Siren World in every way seems like the Twilight Realm, but I suspected that this is only a gameplay similarity, that it won't actually relate to the Twilight Realm in terms of the plot, and this sort of supports it in my opinion, because it doesn't make any sense for some kind of original prototype version of the Twilight Realm to have had the Triforce in it. That doesn't make sense. And given that it doesn't appear anywhere else in the game, or at least for the most part, that makes it very interesting. It could relate to the Sacred Realm or any number of things. What it could exactly mean, we can only speculate on. I could name a number of things, but I'm not sure. It could relate to the goddesses, to the Sacred Realm. This could be what the bad guys are trying to get into, because these guardians that have the Triforce marks on their back are trying to keep them out. It's all speculation at this point, but it is very intriguing and probably is going to be important. Which I suppose means that the Siren World will have plot relevance, but not plot relevance to the Twilight Realm. Din Nehru Furore asks, do you think there will be a Cave of Ordeals-like dungeon in Skyward Sword? Well, there better be. I mean, it's become kind of a staple of the series since, what, The Wind Waker, I think? And it's just a great idea. It's a cool idea. I hope they do it in Skyward Sword, because I like it. Last question. Opinion Jerk asks, the giant cloud mass near Skyloft, it's shaped like a dome. Do you think that it is important to the story, as in do you think that that's where one of the temples or some other secret could be located? Or am I being too interpretive and it's just used for photography? You used the term temple instead of dungeon again. I don't really know what to think of it. It's very interesting. Some part of me wants to say that it's probably just some kind of landmark for the Sky Overworld. landmark. No, it's a sky mark is what it is. But at the same time, in the Zelda series, landmarks usually mean important locations. So, I mean, Twilight Princess being the prime example. So it's probably going to be something. I mean, theoretically, could just be like the precursor of the tornado, maybe, but that doesn't really make sense. So it could be a major place that you're going to go to, or perhaps some kind of influence of the dark evil land below, maybe? I don't really know. We'll have to see what they do in the game. Who knows, it could be the city in the sky. I mean, I don't think the city in the sky has to do with the sky world, but it may just appear, since, you know, it's up there in the sky too. So, I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't know. Alright guys, that's it for this time. Be sure to send your questions to the contact page or email address in the description, and I'll see you guys later.